Good afternoon, rainy Wilmington, and wherever you may be tuning in live and or watching this later in your off time. Maybe you catch up after work. This is how you unwind on Wednesdays. I like it. I'm a fan. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. We are back. It's Cellar Chats, the weekly wine flights here at Second Glass, and we just can't stay away from France. You know what? Say what you want. It's a very attractive place to hang out. I've never been there. But as far as wine-wise, I mean, you can spend an eternity tasting, drinking, and waxing poetic. So, we're here again. Last week we were in, oh my goodness, my brain stopped working. We were in France. I think we did, why can't I remember what we did last week? How sad is that? Wow. I know we did some Bordeaux. We did some other amazing things. Basically, France is the way to go. So, we are in France. This week, we're going to the Rhône, baby. We're going to start out with a little Viognier from François Villard, who is based up in the Condrieu, which is the home of Viognier, for those who didn't know. We're going to roll into Clusel-Roch. This one's a little more fun. I mean, we're still in the Rhône, but this is Côte de Lyonnais, so just outside of the Côte-Rôtie, Condrieu region, and we're going to drink a little Gamay. And then we're going to head south all the way down to just around Gigondas with a little Côte du Rhône from Santa-Duc. You know what? And for this rainy, dark, gloomy, warm, but it's kind of feeling cold. Could be gnarly this afternoon. I'm really vibing on this flight, so let's get into it. François Villard, really, really lovely guy. Making absolutely stellar wines. He's been doing this for a long time. You know, he is based in Condrieu. Condrieu is kind of like his lifeblood. I mean, that's really where he got started. That was the first wine he made was Viognier from Condrieu. And this wine we have here, which is the Les Contours des Topociens. I mean, this is really cheapening it, but it's like a baby Condrieu. You know, Condrieu can be very expensive. For those who are not sure, Condrieu is a specific region in northern Rhône that specializes in Viognier. So this is, and what I mean by baby Condrieu is that it's a little more affordable. It's just labeled Viognier. It's not labeled Condrieu. It does come from an appellation that does encapsulate Condrieu, but it is not all exclusively Condrieu fruit, as far as I know. And Viognier, you know, like so many things that I talk about, Viognier doesn't always have a good rap. Again, here's the label for you guys. Really beautiful, amazing, like Riesling style bottle. I'm pretty sure at one point I did know the story as to why he bottles it in this bottle. I don't anymore, so maybe I'll look that up and find out for you. But Viognier, because of so many things, you know, Condrieu can be really tough to get into. It's expensive. They oftentimes need a lot of time to sit and bottle before they really open up. So oftentimes when people drink at Condrieu, it lacks anything that makes you go, why did I spend all this money on this wine? And then the other side of why Viognier and Condrieu like sort of have fallen off in favor is that the ones that became accessible and people really dug into were a very specific style. Lots of new oak, lots of extraction. And this happened in California too. So you would get these Viogniers that were being treated like California Chardonnay, and they would just be heavy and unctuous and not exactly like pleasing to the palate. You know, up front they were delicious and they certainly appeal to a certain palate, and that's amazing. But what happened is that everybody wanted to follow that, and they just started making these very ubiquitous kind of homogenous wines, which is a real shame. So Viognier telling characteristics to me is like stone fruit and lots of floral characteristics and a little bit of honey. Oh, wow. And this is absolutely stunningly beautiful. Loads of like white flower, orange blossom, a little bit of like ripe peaches, apricots, so pretty on the nose. And Viognier is one of those kind of trickster grapes that it smells really ripe and really like almost like it's going to be sweet because it's so floral and so fruit driven, and then the body and the mouthfeel is just so texturally dry and rounded and delicious. It's just delicious. And to bring back a term I really like to use early on in these videos, it's delightful. It's delightful. Mm. You know, oh wow. Continued like kind of white flowers, more orange blossom, there's a rounded texture to Viognier, which is, you know, I think one of the main reasons that so many producers would take it and they put it in a lot of oak, because it had this ability to do what Chardonnay does. It can be big and bold and rich and can handle a lot of oak and kind of soak it up in a way that still tastes very appealing. But when done with a much more deft hand, like François does, it just really showcases so much more complexity and so much beauty without overwhelming you. You know, there's plenty of freshness here. But again, it's a rainy afternoon. This is the kind of white wine I want to sitting in a window, reading a book, maybe even having a nice little plate. Like, you know, if I didn't have kids, maybe I was like a single person, which doesn't sound like fun, but if that was my life, I'd want to sit in here, order a few plates, have a book, have some glasses of wine, and just zone out to the rain. Maybe that's me. Maybe I'm living a romantic dream in my brain. But nonetheless, that's the vibe I'm getting from this wine, and it is killer. Again, François Villard, Viognier, so pretty, so much fun. All right, let's move into this little fun guy. This is Clusel-Roch. This is what they call their Les Traboules. So really cool project. Small family, started by, you know, it's now run by, I think his name is Guillaume Roch, Clusel-Roch. His father founded it, based in Côte-Rôtie, and they have some really incredible parcels in Côte-Rôtie, making spectacular Syrah. And then they have a little side project that was really brought on by Guillaume, the son, who came aboard and really started pushing things a little forward. These Les Traboules wines, which are basically like outside the appellation, just a little bit more fun, really exploring like some historic terroirs and reaches of, you know, the region in and around Lyon and Côte-Rôtie and Condrieu that maybe fell out of favor because they weren't considered prestigious like Côte-Rôtie or Condrieu, but have a long history of producing beautiful fruit and great wines. So this is their Les Traboules Rouge. Well, it's just Les Traboules from the Côte de Lyonnais. It is 100% Gamay. And this has always been, in my opinion, like a sleeper wine that I'm very fortunate to represent. You know, Gamay, we always think of Beaujolais for good reason. That's really where it comes from. But if you're not familiar with your geography off the top of your head, but if you pull up a map, if we go to the Northern Rhone where Côte-Rôtie is, we're pretty much at the very top of the Northern Rhone. And what's right above the Northern Rhone as you travel north, it's Beaujolais. So we are a stone throw away from Beaujolais. So the fact that there is Gamay planted here, not that surprising. Pretty long history of Gamay being planted in the region. And this wine is always, you know, drunk to me a lot like if you were to take really good Northern Rhone kind of crunchy, peppery Syrah and smash it together with some like really beautiful like Gamay from Morgon or a cru of that nature, you would end up with this wine. It has that like kind of exotic, herbaceous spiciness that you look for in Syrah, a little bit of like olives, and then it has that like crunchy red pomegranate, red fruited character that you love in Gamay, or at least I love in Gamay, and it does both of them all at the same time in this beautiful little package. I mean, absolutely gorgeous color, excellent nose. I mean, again, blackberries, raspberries, pomegranates, a little bit of pepper, spice, some game. Texturally, really bright, but there's a good little heft on the back end. And again, I almost think the nose reminds me more of like a Beaujolais, and the mouthfeel really reminds me of Northern Rhone Syrah. It's got a little more grip. It's got that like granite, northern, oh my gosh. Apparently I just need to stop talking. Northern Rhone granite soils, higher elevation, has that textural like tannin character to it that always reminds me of that. I mean, granite is what you find in Beaujolais. Maybe I'm just rambling, but it all makes sense in my head for what it's worth. And at the end of the day, guess what? It's also delightful and very, very tasty. This is definitely like, to me, for those of you who are like, oh, I like Beaujolais, but sometimes it's a little too bright and too fresh. This is a Gamay that's got a little more heft, a little more backbone to it, a little more structure, without losing that like bright, fresh red fruit that I think people get attracted to when they drink Gamay, or for matter of fact, Pinot Noir in general, and just really affordable. Again, that is Clusel-Roch de les Traboules. They're 100% Gamay from Côtes-du-Rhône, which is just the appellation outside of Lyon. All right, last but not least, fan favorite. Well, I don't know, maybe it's a fan favorite. House favorite. We'll call it a house favorite. The Santa-Duc, their Famille Gras, Les Viognier Côtes-du-Rhône. So Famille Gras, that's actually the name of the family that the Gras family is who owns Santa-Duc. So this used to always be labeled under Domaine Santa-Duc. And then a couple of years ago, they relabeled it, mostly because they actually purchased a little bit of fruit for this wine, and they wanted to separate the fact that all of the wines under Domaine Santa-Duc are estate grown, and then this wine, I think maybe one other wine they make, they do purchase some fruit, or they lease some vineyards, so it's not their own vineyards. So they didn't want people to get confused with it. Still made the same way, hasn't really changed there, but they want to be very transparent, which I appreciate. Santa-Duc, based in Gigondas, so kind of in the echelon of Southern Rhône sub-appellation villages. You've got Châteauneuf-du-Pape, arguably, or not really arguably, the top-notch, top echelon little village of the Southern Rhône. And then you have places like Vaccarat, Gigondas, and I think I'm missing one. There's one other one that's usually really in that top echelon. But Gigondas probably arguably is the next step when it comes to Southern Rhône, like sub-appellation villages. Heavily planted to Grenache, known for a little bit more body and structure. And this is, comes from all of their vineyards within this area, and obviously from source vineyards. It is about 75% Grenache, and then the rest is like Syrah, Mourvedre, Carignan, classic Southern Rhône blend. And I've always liked, Côtes-du-Rhône was one of those early wines that I really attached to when I got into wine, because they tend to be very affordable. They tend to be fruit forward. They tend to be kind of like easily accessible for someone getting into wine, but they have enough like panache and like fanciness to them, quote unquote, that make you feel like you're drinking something really, really cool, which you are. But it just feels cooler to say I'm drinking a Côtes-du-Rhône, as opposed to like, oh yeah, I'm drinking like a California cab or whatever. Nothing against Cabernet, just saying it feels fancy when you say that. Classic Garrigue, that little like lavender, rosemary, thyme, fresh herbs, on the hillsides. Blackberries, woo! Really great structure. A little bit of like a anise licorice characteristic going on. If I remember correctly, they do a decent amount of like fermentations in stainless steel, and there is some concrete here in the winery, and then neutral oak. I don't think it sees any new oak as far as I can recall. And it doesn't taste like it sees new oak. It's very lively and fresh. There is a rounded structure to it, but it doesn't have any oaky characteristics. Just a lovely, lovely wine. I mean, I'm a little biased. I think these are all really lovely. But it's a great little fun lineup. It's gonna be rainy. It's gonna get colder this weekend. And Southern Rhône it's just like, it's a comfort region, and Northern Rhône as well, because two of these are technically Northern Rhône. So the Rhône Valley it's very comforting. There's always warm spice, kind of exotic flavors, good red fruit, just really, really fun. So again, that is our lineup this week. François Villard, Viognier from up in the Northern Rhône, just outside Condrieu. Clusel-Roch, Traboules, 100% Gamay from the Côtes-du-Rhône, and then rounding it out with Santa-Duc Côtes-du-Rhône, Viognier. Be safe out there. Stay dry. Come see us. Come see everybody here at the Second Glass. Have a flight. Have some food. See you guys next week. Bye.